What is up? Welcome to Take This. My name is Brad. I'm here with Griff Sutton. Griff and I here to break down the latest in sports.
Immediately apparent.
Yeah, in case people didn't know what your name was off the bat.
In case that wasn't immediately apparent with the you trying to Beetlejuice me into existence.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I'm good, Brad. I'm good. Well, as good as I can be. Obviously, not a great weekend in terms of being a Michigan fan.
That's okay. That's okay. You'll get through it. I promise.
We'll talk about it. Other than that, I'm good. Ringing the new year, work starting back up.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but things are going good. No complaints.
No complaints. Well, and I got the Michigan State basketball game on, so that is always good news. We're always we love college basketball in January. You know me. I've actually been getting into quite a bit of hoops. I've never been a hoops guy. I'm 5'7", so I don't really care. Never aspired to be. I'm not represented.
And hoops was never my thing.
Yeah, it's true. Griff, we got some Michigan stuff on the agenda today. We also have what do we got going on here? We got the Lions to talk about. That's exciting.
We're talking specifically about what's coming up and why the Lions. Sorry, my stand's very squeaky today. Anyway,
that's okay.
And why the Lions are not like the Jets, the Jaguars, the Giants,
teams that are basement
are also in a rebuild and also have been, at least in lately, have been in the gutter. And basically, I'm going to talk about why the Lions kind of aren't in that position. And we were going to talk about this last week, but there was a great article that came out today. From the Ringer, they do a variety of different sports tech and things like that. They report on a lot of things, but they have a sports subsection. They put out an article today about the Detroit Lions and why we should be hopeful for them. So it really was perfect timing because it really echoes a lot of the sentiment I had written down in last week. So, we're going to talk about that a little bit as well. We also, of course, got Who You Got later in the show. And then we have a new betting segment to introduce. So lots of exciting things to do today. But first, we got to start with... we got
to start with Michigan. Now, here's the thing, all right? Michigan came into Georgia. Do you know what they did? They dropped an L. Griff, they dropped an L. And not only did they drop an L, but they didn't come to play. This still a good season. Still an all right season. They lost 34-11.
Nope.
Best season.
Best
no. I know. Best season since 1997.
There's gonna be a lot of flags on the play because you're gonna. You know what you're gonna do, Brad? I know this is gonna happen throughout this segment. Is there's gonna be a lot of little jabs thrown in there. There's gonna be a lot of these little. Oh, it was an all right season.
It was an all right season.
How would you define MSU season this year?
Okay, Michigan State was...
I understand there's different expectations. But what I'm saying is, was it just all right when MSU went to the playoff and got their doors blown off?
No, it was a great season. But here's the thing.
So you go ahead.
Are you satisfied with this? Are you... As a Michigan fan, you should not be satisfied, right? And I know that Michigan State, right? Went to the playoff in 2015, and they won the Big Ten. They beat Ohio State. They did all the things that Jim Harbaugh wanted to do. It took him 7 years to do, etc. And I know I'm not trying to compare D'Antonio to Harbaugh. I'm not trying to compare. So
Unnecessary.
Unnecessary roughness.
I don't throw in a jab about how D'Antonio tanked the program because he
Yeah,
refused
well,
to pride.
okay, but I know that he did too. Like, I am well aware of that, and I hate him for it.
I'm well aware that Jim Harbaugh has been terrible up until finally, getting it done this year.
Well, right. And but I want to explain, and I want to explain real quick about how my expectations for Jim Harbaugh could not be lower moving forward. And I don't know if he'll end up taking.
Your expectations have gotten lower after this year?
Absolutely, and I'll explain why. But here's the thing, and because I don't know if it's honestly more likely that he runs away somewhere else than actually comes back to the college football playoff. In my eyes, that's how I see it. And I know that it's like shocking to some, and it's like, again, like he finally did it, whatever. But it's year 7, right? And like coaches, and this is very like, and I gotta hand it to Harbaugh. Like, he bet on himself and he did it. He did it. Like, he came out with a pay cut, didn't come out screaming and hollering, whatever, but comes out and is, like, he came out to play. Like, he came out and won the Big Ten, did all these things that we said he wasn't going to do, right? And it didn't look good, against Michigan State. But when he got to the college football playoff, and as Michigan looked like they looked overmatched, and again, it was sort of a reality check, and we know how that goes. And because no Big Ten team has been able to have success in the college football playoff outside of Ohio State, right? Right. You step outside the confines of Columbus, and you get what Michigan State did, throwing a donut up to Alabama, and you get what Michigan did, and they laid an egg against Georgia.
And I'll say this, even Ohio State, they won the 1 year, but
right?
They got shut out by Clemson.
That too. That happened too.
2016,
something like that. Yeah, exactly.
And they got their last year, in the COVID CFP. I believe it was, 2020 CFP. Let me just double check. Yeah, right. It was, Devonta Smith just blew the doors off. They won 52-24 against Ohio State. That game wasn't even like that close. Right. Okay, they I think it would have been, I don't know.
Well, and it speaks more to the average margin of victory in the semifinal, though, being like 20 points, something like that. And that's insane. And I don't know, and I don't want to get into the ways to fix the college football playoff. Like, that's not what I'm here to do. Like today, But is this not like the pinnacle of what Jim Harbaugh can do? You know what I mean? So if it's here, goals should be more.
So, all right, because we said a lot of things here, so I'm going to kind of go through and say everything that you. My expectations now for Jim Harbaugh is you have to be better, right? You got over the first mountain, but the second mountain's an even taller climb, and you need to get up it, and you need to do it quickly. And it starts with you need to be back in Indy next year. You need to be back in Indy next year. And that's going to be hard because Ohio State's going to be better. They're going to have a CJ Stroud with another year under his belt. Michigan State's going to be better. You have Mel Tucker with another year of recruiting under his belt. You're going to be without 2 of Michigan's best defensive players in the last 2 decades.
And I also can't imagine that Penn State is as bad next year as they were this year.
They still got James Franklin.
Yes, but James Franklin does. I mean, again, I'm not a fan of James Franklin, but he does have the track record and the bowls at Penn State to.
So for that reason, alone, you can.
That's true. That's true. But I'm just saying that Penn State has had more good years than they've had bad years, and you know what I mean? It was only a few years ago that Penn State had a winning record, and they were in a New Year's Six bowl, and stuff like that. So you know what I mean? But the Big Ten wasn't that good this year. You saw Michigan State benefit. You saw Michigan benefit. And I mean, again, like Ohio State, if the Big Ten was better, Ohio State might have another Big Ten loss because, again, like they weren't as great and they were playing cupcake teams, from their loss against Oregon up until they played Michigan.
They were in a close game against Penn State. I think it was within a touchdown most of the game. So
right.
No, and I agree. So that's the thing. Next year is going to be even harder.
Right.
So my thing with Jim Harbaugh is it's always been, show don't tell, prove it, put your money where your mouth is. If he comes out next year and wins the Big Ten again, beats Ohio State again, preferably beats Michigan State. Can we do that, please? Can we stop losing to Michigan State? Not that I know it just was like we had that game and he coached himself out of a win. That was
an undefeated season right there.
Yeah. Going into that's the difference between us being the 1 seed, honestly.
Right.
I mean,
absolutely.
Because you can't, if you're undefeated, you get the 1 seed, right? Like the seeding isn't based necessarily on best team. The seeding is based on how good you're perceived to be, and also your record.
Oh yeah, and I've explained this to you before because I think that Georgia should have absolutely been the 1. I don't care if they lost to Alabama, and they would never have done that, obviously, because you can't. There's no way to get past that.
Even if you put Georgia still at 1 or put Bama at 1 and Georgia at 2. Well, I guess they could have done that, but then Michigan feels, slighted for being 3.
Well,
but you're right. Like Michigan being ranked number 2 versus Georgia 3, those don't matter to me. The seeding was purely based off what matchups the CFP wanted,
right, because there's no way that they could have.
Michigan won their conference title game. Bama and Georgia didn't, so that's why they put them at 3. It doesn't matter because you're both in the same. It's the same game, regardless, right?
Right.
The seeding to me isn't a big deal. Like, I will say this. Well, I don't know. I'd like to think. I feel like Michigan might have had a better game if they went against Alabama, just because Alabama was without 2 of their best receivers. But I don't know. Like I was kind of shocked at how relatively close it stayed with Cincy. I expected the Michigan Georgia game outcome to be the same as what happened with the Cincinnati Bama, and it was a very wide margin of victory. But there was just some points where Cincy just kind of hung around for a bit, and Michigan was never in that game. They were just,
well, no, and even though the score seemed a lot closer, the issue that I had was with the Michigan game and Georgia. Georgia just gave up. It's not that they gave up, but they stopped trying. They just, they got to halftime and they were done.
Well, no, I honestly think that was Georgia on a bad week. That's how much better they are.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
So first half they were on all cylinders, and second half, I do think it was part of it. They were just I just want to be done with this, but no, you don't take your foot off the gas in the college football playoff. So
right.
For me, it really felt Georgia didn't. I don't want to say they didn't play well in the second half. They played well, but obviously they played worse in the second than they did in the first half. And even with that, it just didn't matter. So yeah, it's really with where the program is at. Well, I think they do have a very nice collection of young players. I think between Blake Corum, Braylon Edwards, who is he was a freshman running back this year. He had some fantastic plays this year. I'm very excited to see what he does next year because Hassan Haskins will be gone, and I love Blake Corum as a person too. Dude eats Sour Patch Kids before each game. I don't know. It's just something about that that's just kind of awesome to me.
That's funny.
And he's also a good dude. He used his NIL money to give money back to his the neighborhood he came from, give him Thanksgiving dinners and all that. He's someone I'm oh my God, why can't more Michigan people be like you, dude? I want more Michigan players and people I don't know. I haven't heard him talk smack about Ohio State, Michigan State. Like, sure, behind closed doors, whatever, but like he hasn't been adding fuel to that fire. Blake Corum is what I want more players to be like. But I think the biggest thing for Michigan, they do get Ronnie Bell back next year, who he is someone that could be, drafted in the NFL as a wide receiver. Maybe not first round, but he could be a mid-round draft pick. Especially, and we'll see what happens next year. He has all the talent in the world, and he is an offensive leader on this team. And not having him this year, when he went down, I thought that was really what I thought the end of the season was going to be, was not having him. And obviously they were able to rebound enough. But no, I think really my expectation now is like you see how far the gap is still between Michigan and the SEC teams like Georgia and Bama. And we kind of saw, I think it happened with D'Antonio, where he had a come to Jesus moment getting beat that bad. You finally reach the mountaintop just to get kicked right back down. And I think, and from there we saw the decline with D'Antonio. And I'm not saying like him losing that game is the reason for the D'Antonio decline, but I think it messes with your psyche to a certain degree. And I think the same thing very well could happen to Jim Harbaugh, especially because it took him 7 years to do it, and to not even show up in the game is a tough scene. And so really, I mean, I guess if he's back next year, if he doesn't go to Vegas like is being reported, but it's reported every year.
Rumors are rumors, right? Right.
Well, I mean, and these seem to have a little more weight to them, but it's a wait and see. I'll wait until there's something a little more.
Right. And there's more people talking about it now, but I mean, again, we won't get into that. I don't like to speculate things like that. And again, cuz
I think it's because now the narrative really fits for him to leave.
Right.
Because
he got to that. And cuz like if you think about it from Jim Harbaugh's perspective, like what more can he do? Like from, you know what I mean? From Michigan, because he did what you asked him to do. He met the goal.
If he leaves, I'll say this. It tells me that he knows he can't get to the Alabama, Georgia level. And he didn't want to. And I think if you're a Michigan fan, you can be happy with this year. I was. And people were talking about like, oh, what do we need for Harbaugh to stick around? What do we need to be satisfied with him? And my thought process was up until the game Saturday was, I'm not thinking about that right now. We'll cross that bridge. I'm enjoying the fact that we finally have gotten this far. And now that it's over and the ride has ended, and it ended the way that it did, I'm not satisfied with beating Ohio State every year and winning the Big Ten. I want a national title.
Well, and even like doing it once.
For a Michigan fan, what?
Like, do you think that Harbaugh could repeat this? Like, do it again? Do you think that he could do it again, like in the next 2 years?
Get to the
college football playoff.
Michigan wins the Big Ten, they go to the playoff, right? Like that's a foregone conclusion,
right? Of course.
So you're asking me, do I think Jim Harbaugh can win the Big Ten again? Yeah, I mean he's done it now. He's shown he can beat Ohio State, and I mean, let's not get it twisted. Ohio State.
Okay, but like Ohio State, like, because here's my issue, and I've said this about Michigan, and you've heard this opinion before, but like Ohio State is on a down year, correct? Like 2 losses this is a bad year for Ohio State. Well, like this is
one of the losses is to us. They were
right. Well, of course, team. And then and they were a 1-loss team coming into that game against Oregon, and a lot of that had to do with some defensive strategy that. Might have gone elsewhere if they would have, tuned that up. But I think because that's my issue, right? Is that I want my team to be able to beat a team when they are, I guess, at the top of that game, and I don't know how reasonable that is to expect. Because I don't want, as someone who would root for Michigan State, I don't want Michigan State to be good only when Michigan is bad. You know what I mean? Like Michigan State benefited. Like Michigan State has a winning record. They've won 10 of the last 14 because Michigan had a rough coaching transition. You know, you get into the nitty and gritty of that rivalry. Really, it's Michigan was strong. They won like for 6 or 7 straight years, and then they lost a bunch because of that, because of Rich Rod, because of Brady Hoke. And then you had Harbaugh come in, who sort of stabilized the rivalry. But then Michigan State was down because that was only in 2015 that Harbaugh took over. And 2015 was the last year that Michigan State saw success up until this year. And so, like, you know what I mean? Like, I want, like, my team to be competitive even when, you know, like, I would want, like, as a Michigan fan, I would want for it to be at least 500, like, go both ways. You know, be a competitive rivalry. I don't want to beat the team when they're down.
I think that the narrative that Ohio State was the only, like, to say Michigan only won a game this year against Ohio State because Ohio State is on a down year, I don't think is correct.
I mean, that's totally fair.
It's one of the less like, I don't know what the word is that I want here. I don't want to say less talented because there's a shit ton of talent.
It's a refresh team, right? It's sort of like, you know, it's a stopgap team.
Is it one of the most inexperienced? Yeah, but they also have 3 NFL receivers on their team.
Well, and Michigan did look impressive in that game, to be fair. Like, Michigan didn't just squeak out with a victory. Michigan came in there and totally dominated. You play that game 10 times and Michigan wins 9 of them.
Just like how if Michigan-Georgia replays, Georgia wins that game 100 times out of 100.
I don't think it's...
Michigan-Ohio State game was...
Well, yeah, but I don't think that game is the same. I think that Ohio State would win that game 1 out of 10 times. I think that Georgia would win it 100 out of 100.
No. Because you know what our offensive line did? We lined up and we said, we're going to feed you pizza. But I don't want pizza. You're getting fed pizza. And we kept doing it, and we kept doing it, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. And that was, and you know what it was? And this kind of brings it back to the Michigan-Georgia game. It was coaching, and it was scheme, and it was game planning. Harbaugh spent, half of his resources this season were spent on this game, or on the Ohio State game, right? And that's the biggest reason why they won it. He played it so the personnel was a mismatch, right? So he could always, so the running game could do what they wanted as much as they want. So even when Ohio State showed they could score. And that was the other thing. On defense, they kept the ball in front of them. They didn't give up the big play. Like, yeah, Ohio State, C.J. Stroud threw the ball all over the place and got a ton of yards, but they didn't let him score a lot of touchdowns, held him to several field goals. It was a great game plan. And then we saw what happened in the Georgia game in the CFP. Georgia completely schemed us to have all of our weaknesses front and center. We have an elite pass rush with a secondary that, has been used to quarterbacks being pressured all season and having to, throw the ball quickly. What does Georgia do? Quick passes to not allow the pressure to get home. Quick passes into open space, into the flat, into like dump offs, and then occasionally you open it up to the deep play because now you keep, by doing all those short passes, the secondary has to keep crowding the line, and then you just blow past them. It was fantastic personnel selection to go against our Michigan's personnel. It was a perfect play calling. It was perfect game design, and Michigan had no response. And that's kind of why. It's exactly why we lost. They were overmatched from the beginning. I think on the talent deficiency between the two was significant, but I think it was also the coaching. Like, I think they were in a spot where they couldn't run the ball, and they had to rely on Cade more, and Cade had to make balls big. Didn't have as good of windows as he normally has because they couldn't run the ball, so they knew the pass was coming, and so he threw 2 picks, and that's not saying it's necessarily his fault, but he hasn't had to. He's made big time throws, but he hasn't had to throw it, 40 times in a game to win it, right? He hasn't had to do that this year. Even in the Ohio State game, he had to make several good throws at key moments, but he didn't need to make 40 and be the focal point of the offense. Whereas in this game, the only chance Michigan had is if he did that. So to kind of bring this all back down around to center, do I think Jim Harbaugh can repeat this? Yeah, I think he could beat Ohio State again. Because like I said, even though we're losing obviously several players to the draft, and that being Hutchinson and Ajabo, I think they've built enough of a foundation, especially with, again, some of the younger players they got, and more recruits coming in. I think they're at a place now where they could start beating Ohio State somewhat regularly. And again, if they beat Ohio State, unless something crazy happens, they're likely going to the college football playoff.
So then let me ask you this.
Do I think they can make the leap to be competitive in the CFP? No, I don't think Jim Harbaugh is ever going to get there. And that's the thing. And for me, that's not enough. Like, I don't understand Michigan fans that are like, oh, well, beating Ohio State and winning the Big Ten is all that matters. Bo Schembechler era football. But that's not what
that's not what college football is anymore.
Program with a national brand, is that really what we've settled with? Right. That's where we're at.
Right. Well, and so I have one more question for you to wrap this kind of up. And I want to talk about J.J. McCarthy, and I know it's early, but J.J. McCarthy and Cade McNamara. Now, and I know that there's, people did this with Joe Milton, and I know people, and Shea Patterson, I'm not going to say that Shea Patterson is the same as Cade McNamara. At first, I was very confident that he was, but Shea Patterson broke records at Michigan because Michigan's offense was built for him. It relied on him. It was built around him. And right. Shea Patterson was able to thrive under it. Does that mean that Shea Patterson is a great quarterback? Of course not. He overthrew receivers consistently. I was watching I think I've told you this before, but I was watching him in the Senior Bowl, and there was two receivers running both layered routes. I don't know how, whatever. So he was running layered routes. One receiver's running under, one receiver's running over. Well, he overthrows the one dude. The dude's sitting 10 yards behind him, and it would have been easier for him to just throw it to the dude instead of overthrowing him. He overshot him. It's an easy interception. And just that sort of stuff happens. It's exactly why he was never drafted and got cut from Kansas City. Just stupid stuff like that. But anyway, not to go on that rant, but so I'm kind of skeptical all the time nowadays, or more hyper aware of when people are hyping up the backup to be better than the starter. Because when the starter is out there, I mean, there's usually a reason, and obviously this year it was experience, right? Like JJ's very raw, and that's sort of the thing, right? And so it's more mistake heavy, obviously like most freshmen are. I mean, even CJ Stroud being a redshirt freshman is not in his, and I would say that Stroud has a higher ceiling than McCarthy. But we don't know. I mean, I could be wrong.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's hard to say because now we've seen what Stroud can do.
Well, exactly. And again, we don't know what McCarthy is. We don't know. But
he is an unproven talent,
right? But what we want to know,
he's potential. That's all he is.
So what I want to know though is, what do you do with them? Because you know what I mean? Because at this point, if I'm JJ McCarthy, I go to Jim Harbaugh and I say, give me the job or I'm out. You know what I mean? I'm leaving because it's just not worth it to me, because
he's a guy. He's trying to go to the NFL.
Well, exactly. Absolutely. 100%. I mean, he's an unbelievable talent, and we know he is.
He's trying to create draft stock.
But
for him, it's sophomore year. It's time to start getting name on the board, and then, be gone junior year.
So if I were,
you want to be a first round pick.
If I were Jim Harbaugh, do you know what I would have done? I would have would this not have made more sense for you to just redshirt? And I don't know if Cade McNamara would have declared for the draft after his junior year, because he's a junior, right? He would be going into his sophomore year. If
He's going into his senior year this year. Yeah.
so, right, senior year. I'm sorry, I messed that up. But so he's going into his senior year, and would he not, like, he would have had more, I guess, like, and I don't know, because they kind of put their offense around the run game, right? But like, and I don't know that he would have declared for the draft, but I would have just redshirted JJ, and you could have still played him in the important games, like the games against Michigan State, the games against Ohio State, and because I think, what is it, like 4 games that he can play in, but like, and then just redshirt him this year, which you couldn't have done, and then play him in his sophomore year, whatever. I don't know if you want to do the carousel then or whatever, but I just don't understand why you don't do what, say, like Michigan State did in, like, you know, their offense, where Peyton Thorne has several confident plays that he can go in big situations and improve the red zone offense, because that's always been the way they explained to me, is that JJ is here to improve the offense in the red zone. And I'm like, why? Because you can't pass the ball in the red zone? Like, what are you here for? I mean, I saw Michigan go, like, I can't remember the stat, but it was like 1 for 4 or something like that in the red zone against Michigan State. And so Michigan gets the ball in the red zone and they can't score, right? But then JJ gets the ball on a 3rd down and goes to Andrell Anthony in the red zone, and it's a huge catch score. It's their only red zone TD of the game. And so, like, I'm just wondering why you can't just make your offense better in the red zone. Like, you should not need 2 quarterbacks to score in the red zone. I mean, maybe against a tough team in a certain situation or something, maybe you run Wildcat or something, screw up the defense, but it's just not, I guess, like, I just don't understand the point of keeping both quarterbacks as they are. Like, why do we still not know who the starting quarterback is going into next season?
Yeah, I think I understand that JJ has given us, you know, the best. JJ. Cade has given us the best season Michigan's had in 2 decades. Yeah, it's 97. Really, realistically, this is the best season since then. So it's like, but he still just feels like such a system quarterback. He feels like, what's a nice comparison in, like, the NFL? I don't want to say Jared Goff. That's not correct. He feels like Jimmy Garoppolo or maybe Ryan Tannehill on a good day.
Kirk Cousins?
Like, yeah, he might be. Yeah, where it's like, yeah, no, Kirk Cousins is great, actually, because lose games,
like a 500
not
quarterback.
really his fault.
Yeah.
Well, it's not. Wins aren't a QB stat.
Well, that's true.
Like, Kirk Cousins,
I mean, in the NFL, the it factor can be a thing, but
the it factor, yeah. So, like, but no, I'm saying, like, the wins, just like Kirk Cousins, especially this year, because he's had, like, quietly a very good year. But it's, you know, he wins the games, plays well, but doesn't elevate the team to be at that elite level, if that makes sense. That is, like, the difference between a Kirk Cousins and, you know, the Tom Brady's and Aaron Rodgers of the worlds, right?
Right. Like, when you watch, like, CJ Stroud on the field, right? Like, when you watch CJ Stroud, you know that he is just different. Like, it's just different. Exactly. And again, like, I know that he had 3 NFL receivers.
The reason Michigan fans want to move on from McCarthy is from McNamara is because they think JJ supposedly has the potential to be that, and he absolutely does. I mean, we've seen some flashes from him all season with his arm and his legs, but I think the people that think that we're a QB away from winning it all, are crazy. It is we are organizationally behind these schools because we are not on their level, and we need to do more if we ever want to. Like, we got to do things better. We got to keep improving. So you want to get to those schools levels, win the Big Ten next year, and then win it the year after that. Keep getting to the playoff and keep improving, because getting to the playoff improves your recruiting. Improving recruiting allows you to catch up. Like, you're going to keep going. If you keep going to the playoff, you're going to lose. You're going to probably keep losing, at least for, I would think, another 2 years. Hopefully, like, again, assuming they can make it to the next 2 years in a row. If they can do that, they probably lose, but it's probably closer, probably a better game. At least, you hope. But that's really, their best chance. So, like, is this just the beginning? I mean, I've heard a lot of that from Michigan, but it's like, this is year 7 of Harbaugh. He's 1-5 against Ohio State. He's 3-4 against Michigan State, and he's 1-5 in bowl games, with a terrible, terrible record against ranked teams, especially on the road. And that's the other thing. You got to go to Columbus next year to win. You don't have the home field advantage. So I get that beating Ohio State was a big deal this year. I'm not taking away from it. It was a great win. It was a great season. But if you want to be a truly great school, if you really, this wasn't one of the greatest seasons in Michigan football history. No, is it I don't know. It's the best one of this millennium, but it's the best one in 20 years, but best in history, not a chance. So no, if this is truly just the beginning, then you go out and win the Big Ten next year, and if you don't, then I'm disappointed. I expect you to now win the Big Ten every year. So that's where I'm at, Great season. Happy we got here. Sad how it ended. Put up or shut up time. I mean, you've had 7 years. There's no more excuses. You don't get to go out and lay an egg next year. And I know the school will never fire him, especially not after just beating Ohio State. But I'm done with it. My patience is evaporated. I mean, I didn't invest that much, invest emotionally much in this team, much at all, until, especially after the MSU loss, I was really just like stung. I was like, yep, that's it. It's over. I'm done. And then they beat Ohio State. The fuckers, they just pulled me back in.
Well, and everything, right, and everything was forgiven again.
It was...
To some it is. I mean, if you look on Twitter, you got some people are like, this is the start of the beginning. And I'm like, yeah, but like, still like a 20, I think it's 22. Hold on, let me pull it up. It is 23-22. Jim Harbaugh is, including this year, 23-22 against Power 5 opponents that have a record above 500. Which, like, I don't know, like, if you look at that stat, that's just not, I don't know, that's not good enough.
Bad opponents, and you can't beat the good ones.
Right.
So
like, even with this year, because he had the loss to Michigan State.
And basically in prove me wrong mode, and until then, I'm still going to be skeptical. Like, he's earned a reprieve, right? Like, if he lost this year, it was, I think, I'm pissed he's my coach. But now it's like, okay, I'm okay with him being my coach because he's earned a 1-year cushion because he did what he couldn't do. And now it's, okay, let's do it again. And
well, and now, like, I mean, even
if on the shit list.
I mean, if, like, that's the thing, right? Like, he sort of elevated himself from the hot seat. I mean, if he goes out and...
For a year.
And
for me anyway, it's a year. Now the school, he could have lost this year and he wasn't getting fired. It didn't matter. But yeah, it just go out and beat Ohio State next year. And if you lay another egg against Ohio State or lose to Michigan State again, then hey, guess what? You're right.
If he loses to Michigan State again, I don't know what you do. Like, I mean, I think that's the game that I would be the most concerned
Michigan
about
State
because I think
an extra $10 million onto Mel Tucker's contract.
Well.
That's what I would do.
Well, because, like, again, like, and we don't have to get into this now or whatever, but, like, it's just so weird to me because, like the Michigan State thing, I think, is what would bother me the most right now if I was a Michigan fan because, like, you have Ohio State and like you beat them, right? Like you did it. Okay, like cool, right? But like if Michigan goes out and loses to Ohio State next year, and I'm not saying loses by like a shit ton, like losing by that like a lot, that's something else. Like you can't lose by 20. But if you're competitive in that game and you lose, okay, fine. But if you lost to Michigan State that year, that's a no-no. Like you can't do that. Like Michigan, if they're in Ann Arbor, there's no reason for Michigan to lose that game. I mean that's all I'm gonna say about that, because I think that Michigan State right now should mean more to Jim Harbaugh than Ohio State, just because he's done that. And like again, you're 3-4 against. You can't go 3-5 against your in-state rival that you should be obviously better than. Like they are a secondary rival to you.
All right.
But anyway, let's get into the Lions, Griff, because
I want to talk Lions. I've been waiting since last week to talk about this because I am. They haven't. Weirdly enough, I'm not as jaded about the Lions as I am as about Michigan. But that's probably because I've had Jim Harbaugh for 7 years. Like if Michigan went out and got a new coach, I'd probably have like sort of a revived sense of fandom. But just because it's something new, even if it's not great, it's just at least something new. It's hope, right? That's what a rebuild gives. That's all you can live off of, and hope is better than despair, which is like. The Lions' 2020 season was despair because you knew Matt Patricia was a dead man walking, and you just knew it was going to be bad. But there wasn't anything building towards because you still had to tear everything down in the offseason. At least now, this is the hard part, right? It's this season is the hard part for a rebuild because this is the season where you have to just be shit because everything's gone. You've teared the entire team down to its studs. You've only have the small makings of a foundation, and you have to build the rest. So basically, I just want to talk about, Lions are 14-1. Does that add up? 2-13-1? 2-13-1. And they'll be, if Green Bay, it sounds like is playing their starters this week, but even if they play backups, I'm pretty sure the Lions are losing. Even if they win or lose, they've secured the number 2 overall draft pick. Worst case scenario, if the Lions lose and the Jaguars somehow beat the Colts, even though the Colts are playing for a playoff spot, so probably not going to happen. But if it were to happen, the Lions have the number 1 pick. Either way, number 2 is pretty damn good.
Is the Jags schedule like harder than the Lions, or is that what it is, or is it easier?
We have the tie.
Oh, well, yeah, but like, what's the tiebreaker? Isn't it strength of schedule?
We can't tie break unless we.
Oh, I see what you mean. Tie. We literally have a tie. Like we literally tied Pittsburgh. I'm sorry.
So unless the Jaguars tie, but even if so, okay. Actually, I'll tell you this: if we were to tie, or sorry, if we lost and went 2-14-1, and the Jaguars were to tie against the Colts and also were 2-14-1, the Jaguars still get the number 1 pick because they had an easier strength of schedule, which means if you have an easier strength of schedule and you still lost that many games, like that's the mindset. Basically, like you faced so many bad teams and you still lost this much. Whereas the other team's you lost a lot, but you went against better competition. Like the Jaguars went against the Texans twice,
Right. Well, yeah, exactly.
We went against the entire AFC. We went against the AFC we went against the NFC West and the AFC North.
Yeah.
Which are both, like, records-wise, those are very good divisions. we think we went against the Bengals, who are 10-6. We went against the Ravens and Steelers, who are 500. We went against the Rams. We went against the Cardinals, even though we beat them. But still, they add to the strength of schedule.
What's funny is it's not that different because Jacksonville they played their NFC team. Their NFC division they were facing the NFC West, so that's interesting.
Yes, but they got to face Houston,
right? Yeah, I know their division didn't do them any favors. Well, I guess it did them more favors because now they get the draft pick.
Yeah. So anyway, unless we lose, unless we lose and the Jags win, we will have the number 2 pick. We can't lose the number 2 pick. That's all that matters. So, yeah, I think depending on how this offseason could go, the Lions could realistically be playing meaningful football games in the month of December next year. And by meaningful games, I just mean, that graphic they put up in the games, and you see division winners, wild card, and then you see the in the hunt. I think the Lions have a realistic chance to be in the hunt, if not a wild cards, like a 7 seed slot next year. Here is my reasoning. First of all, let's talk about what the team has now. Dan Campbell. Let's talk about what he's really good at. He is an A-plus motivator and leader. And I know, these are professional football players. They got to play hard. They're trying to make money. But you have to realize that Dan Campbell gets he garners a respect from his players, and that's a big deal. We saw what happens when your players don't respect you. We've seen it with Urban Meyer. We saw it with Matt Patricia here in Detroit. We're seeing it sort of happen with Joe Judge in New York on the Giants. And, being able to maintain those guys' respect, maintain the energy, maintain their focus, even when you're 2-13-1, and they're still coming out and, playing meaningful, even guys who are veterans, guys who like Penei Sewell, well, yeah, he's a rookie, so he's still trying to prove himself. I won't use him as an example. Taylor Decker, playing very good football. He's under contract. Tracy Walker, who is younger and still has something to prove. He's playing very good. We have guys like I can't say his first name, Vaitai. He's one of our guards. He is a veteran in the league, and he is playing very well. And the other thing is he knows what kind of guys he has, and he knows if he can't get the buy-in, he knows they have to go. They cut Jamie Collins in the middle of the season, a guy who they, was a remnant of the Patricia era, because he is a football player that couldn't exist in a world, in an ecosystem that wasn't New England or wasn't run like New England, where you get, he couldn't motivate himself. He had to be constantly like yelled at and go, go, go. Otherwise, he just was so lazy and flat-footed and just not giving his all. So the Lions cut him and he went back to New England, right? Because that's where his ecosystem is. So I think that is one of the things I've liked seeing, right? He gets a lot of respect from his guys. He garners a lot of respect from the locker room. And he's a good motivator. Like, it's what he is good for. He's a leader of men type of coach, right? Not exactly, the analytics genius like a Sean McVay. So that brings me to his decision making. So I said his motivation is an A+. His decision making is a D+. Now I know all the fourth down talk, we've talked about it. The analytics have said to go for it in a lot of those spots. I get it. I have it as a D+. It was an F earlier this season. Let's look at the examples. Double timeout fiasco on Thanksgiving. Not great, Bob. And then the very next play to still, then this on defensive coordinator too, Aaron Glenn, but like to play, you're up by like 2 points, I think it was. You either need to stop them so they kick a field goal, or you need to let them score a touchdown so you get the ball. So you need to just stand right on, I think the goal to goal line was the 5-yard line, 4-yard line. All of your defensive backs should be staying there, keep everything in front of you, or let them score the touchdown behind you. And they had all their guys on the goal line, like they were preventing a touchdown when that's what they needed. So like, not great. The play calling in the Pittsburgh game, I've seen so many Lions make excuses for that game of the weather, and we had Tim Boyle or Jared Goff was hurt, and I don't care. If Jared Goff is hurt, then if he can't throw a football as a quarterback, he should not be in the game. This is why you have backups. Even if, like, I get it, Tim Boyle and David Blau aren't good, but they can throw the football. If Jared Goff can't, then he shouldn't be in the game. Running draw plays on 3rd and long, running a halfback dive on 3rd and goal from the 9-yard line in a 1-score football game when you were winless. They gave that game away because of Dan Campbell's play calling and decision making. So, yeah, and even go to the Ravens game. Yeah, it took an act of God for Justin Tucker to kick that field goal, 66 yards. But you kind of put yourself in a bad situation to get there. You had the ball before that. You kicked the field goal to go up by a point. Instead of being aggressive like you claim you're going to be, you just run the ball on 3rd down to make them burn their last time out and then kick the field goal, and you gave them like a minute or 59 seconds. When we've all seen, the NFL, it's not hard to go down the field in 59 seconds to get into field goal range, and especially when they have Justin Tucker. So you could have been more aggressive, gone for a first down to run out the clock, gone for a touchdown to just take a bigger lead to force the Ravens to get touchdowns. So, like, there's lots of things that Dan Campbell has done that his decision-making has been questionable. And I don't like he's learning on the job. This isn't an internship. This is one of 30. There's 32 of these jobs. That's it in the whole world. And you got one of them. You don't get to learn on the job. You need to be ready to do this. You can't be making simple mistakes like this. You just can't. Not as an NFL caliber head coach. It's not acceptable.
Well, and so here's, and I want to bring this up real quick, if that's okay. So, because I know exactly what you're talking about, and I know that like Dan Campbell had this huge scandal or fiasco with his like offensive coordinator or whatever. Because what I don't understand is why
he took over play calling from Anthony Lynn.
Like, why does he feel the need to do that? Like, and I know that like whatever.
It's not good.
Okay, fine. Fire him. Find someone else.
To his credit, the offense has done better under Dan Campbell's play calling than it has under Anthony Lynn's.
I mean, yeah, you won a game. You won a couple games, Like, I guess, yeah.
But just points per game has been higher, yards per game.
Yeah.
There was a lot of first quarters under Anthony Lynn's play calling where the Lions had like 10 yards in the first quarter. And then, after I think 2 weeks of Dan Campbell at the play calling, they actually started to have offensive output in the first quarter. So
I guess like the best thing, because if I was Dan Campbell,
I want Dan Campbell calling plays. There was an article today that came out.
Mm-hmm. Go on.
That said he doesn't know where he stands on if he wants to continue or not. I hope he doesn't. That's not what you were brought.
No, I wouldn't.
They need to go out and get a new aged, smart, offensive-minded head coach. Someone like an Eric Bieniemy, a Sean McVay type, like he did not Sean McVay himself, obviously, but someone with that mindset to be creative and create dynamic offensive output.
Well,
and have that person
because obviously
that's what they need to do.
The whole thing with me, because and we've been over this before. I was not thrilled with Dan Campbell coming here because of, for a multitude of reasons, but the main standout to me was that he's a rookie head coach. And when you pair a rookie head coach with a rookie GM,
technically, he was an interim head coach for the Dolphins, so he has head coached games before.
Okay, well, sorry.
Here's
he hasn't had a job anywhere.
Head coach is not the same. It's not the same. He is still a rookie head coach, but you just got to remember he has been the biggest thing I think that gives me hope because a lot of the things I've heard is that the decision making is because the team is so talent deficient, and so he's saying we can't stop these guys. So fuck it, we're going for it on 4th down a lot because it's the only chance we're going to have is to keep up, right? But
wasn't the issue with his decision-making down the line? Wasn't the issue that he wasn't, like, I can't remember a specific example, but, like, wasn't he, like, kicking the ball or something like that on? I remember watching that, right, with the homeless guy who was the kicker or something like that.
Yeah.
Where he just like kicked the ball for no reason at all. And it's like 4th down and like who gives a shit if you don't make it on 4th down because it's not like you're going to be winning money games anyway. And that field goal was out of reach. You don't have a kicker, etc. You know what I mean? Like,
that was
because
after the
that's what
Pittsburgh
people
game.
liked with him
There's
at
different-
first, was that he was very aggressive in the first few weeks of the season. And then all of a sudden he's pulling it back and he's like, wait. I'm going to like
That's been
ease
the
it
big
back
thing,
a little
it's
bit.
Inconsistency. If you're gonna be, the aggressive, analytical, go for it all the
Like
time,
they were against the Rams.
it was inconsistent.
Because against the Rams, they were pulling out all the stops. They were doing the onside kicks.
That
were
was an example of a perfect game plan.
right.
That was if Dan Campbell coached not saying you have to do the crazy shit he did in that game. He put his team in the best position to win in that game with his decision making, personnel, coaching decisions, all of it. If he coached every game like that Rams game to that quality, I'd have no complaints. If he coached every game like he did the Cardinals game, I'd have no complaints. It's the games like the Browns and that. That's why I said it was an F and I moved it up to a D plus because it's improved. And my hope is that next year, some of his fuck it, we're going for it is going to decrease because there will be more talent on this team. He won't have to feel so nervous about trusting his defense. Or when he goes for it on fourth down, it'll be more favorable because you have better offensive weapons. And we're going to talk about that in a minute too.
Right.
So I think the fact that if his decision making can improve, he's got a great coaching staff around him. He's got Aaron Glenn on the defense. He's going to get poached to be a head coach soon. So let's get the use out of him while we can. You got, Hank Fraley, who's our offensive line coach. The Lions' offensive line has been one of the best in the league, and that's without our Pro Bowl center, and we were without our Pro Bowl left tackle for a chunk of the year. He has helped Penei Sewell develop into an All-Pro. I don't know if he should likely become at least a second-team All-Pro this year. The only reason he didn't make the Pro Bowl as a rookie is because he just had a rough start, because he was at left tackle and then got moved to right. But ever since he moved to right tackle, he has just been a force. And even the backups, Frank Ragnow, who our Pro Bowl center who got hurt, his backup, Evan Brown, has played very well for a backup center. We've had a series of different, linemen come into play, and the offensive line has been one of the best in the country. And so you have guys like that. You have Antoine Randall, who's helping elevate a very bad receiving room, but we've seen Amon-Ra St. Brown, a.k.a. the sun god, because Amun-Ra is the sun god, an Egyptian sun god. Great nickname, by the way. Detroit might be a poverty franchise. We have great wide receiver nicknames. But yeah, he's elevated his play. Aubrey Pleasant, let's be real. The defense, the secondary is probably the worst thing about this team. And he took undrafted free agents and turned them into pro caliber players. Jerry Jacobs, before he got hurt, which was honestly just so sad to see, who as an undrafted free agent was playing as a solid starting cornerback too who could be a second corner on a lot of teams in this league, and those teams would be better for having him. Amani Oruwariye, who's a third-year guy, his game has stepped up significantly. 6 interceptions this year, one of the lowest QB passer ratings when they throw to him into his coverage. Those are all very, very good signs, and I think that's Campbell's thing, is he has been able to surround himself with the X's and O's guys to allow his team to develop and play very well. And I think if he can continue to do that, some guys are going to leave, and if you can keep replacing them and bringing guys that can keep your team playing at that level, that's also a very good sign. I think the biggest thing is you got to get a new OC this offseason. So that's the coaching staff. Like I said, I'm very optimistic. I need to see the decision-making be better, and I need to see a new OC, but everything else has been about as good as I can ask, okay? Let's talk about the roster right now. I already touched on this little elite O-line. Penei Sewell, fantastic. We have a Pro Bowl center in Frank Ragnow. We have a Pro Bowl left tackle with Taylor Decker, and a lot of good depth. Running backs, we have DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams. DeAndre Swift obviously has been extremely good. Some injury issues have obviously happened. I don't think he's played a full season yet, but we've shown that Jamal Williams is a great power back that can come in and do the job. And let's not forget, there was a game where both DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams were out, and we had a guy, Craig Reynolds, who his nickname was Netflix because he was at home on his couch watching Netflix when he got a call to join the Lions practice squad because of how depleted our running back room was. Came in and rushed for 100 yards behind our O-line. That's how good our offensive line is that anyone can successfully run behind it. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of situations where both Swift and Williams are out. This was, the COVID issue obviously was the reason why this year. But the fact that we have two, I think DeAndre Swift is an elite pass catching back. Like, he can be an Alvin Kamara if he can stay healthy. And Jamal Williams is a damn good, and also is my wife's favorite because he's very funny and likes anime. But he is a very good power back. So that backfield can do a lot on this team. Did you want to say anything about DeAndre Swift? I think you had something to say about
the
him.
only thing that I have, and I know that we had this concern with Hawkinson real quick. So my main thing really was, and I don't see a lot of people bringing this up, but how many years are left on his rookie deal? Is it 2? Is it 3? On DeAndre Swift's contract.
So 2.
Okay.
This is his second year. Yep, second year this year. So he would have 2, and then there's the 5th year option.
Okay, perfect.
I don't know if they'd be able to get with him.
So here's and I'm only concerned, right? What are they gonna do if they, you know what I mean? Like, if he's gone in a couple years, he's a stud. Love him to death.
Running backs are, as you've seen, running backs, I don't think you should, I love him, but I don't want to pay him. I don't want to pay him a lot.
You don't pay a running back in this league.
Happened. Look what happened with Zeke Elliott, right?
Right.
Paying running backs doesn't work well. So
no,
it really comes down to,
and that's the same thing that I have with Hawkinson, though, right? Deal. That's the same thing that I have with Hawkinson. I think the Lions should trade him for a pick.
See, yeah, I'm more worried about Hawkins. If Hawkinson was a George Kittle or was a Travis Kelce, I'd pay it.
Create himself value.
So
just like the Bucks are getting with Gronk.
So that's the thing. It's with DeAndre Swift, if he goes, I think you can find another running back to fill it. Look at Elijah Mitchell this year. You could get a 3rd-round running back or a 2nd-round running back to replace him.
Honestly, do his job.
That's fine. It's better to do that than to sign him to a contract and have his production fall off like what happened with Zeke.
Right.
It sounds crazy to keep drafting running backs every 5 years, but with the way running backs kind of work in the NFL, it's kind of the best.
And they're given such a short lifespan. That's one of the reasons. What you saw, Kenneth Walker III for MSU, if I were him, I'd head to the draft right now.
But
with the lifespan,
the last time a running
there's
back
not much that he could do to improve his draft stock.
Saquon Barkley got taken number 2 overall, and since then there hasn't been a running back taken in the top 20.
No,
because teams know it's value. That's what
right. You create value at certain picks.
You can a 1st-round pick. You could draft a receiver,
right,
or a linebacker, or an edge rusher, or an offensive tackle that'll play for you 10, 12, 15 years if you're lucky. Whereas if you draft, a running back, you're lucky if you can get, 7 years, 8 years out of
right.
it. So, and I think, so the thing with Hawk is I'm less worried about injury. He'll have a longer lifespan in the NFL, although he's been injured quite a few times, which is concerning. My concern with Hawk is I don't think he's, there's Kelce, Kittle, Mark Andrews, those guys, Darren Waller, he's been hurt, but we've seen him. He can be that guy, right? Those guys are here. And we were told, I didn't want to take him at 8. I'll tell you that right now. I did not want to take another tight end at 8. didn't want him. But, if he turns into a Kittle, then he's worth it. It's just like, is he really going to? So Hawkinson's like down here. He's about as good as, like, he's a little bit better than Tyler Higbee is the best comparison I can make, the Rams tight end. Like, he's a better athlete for sure, but production-wise, and this year I'm not really, like, I get it because the team didn't really, like, they kind of knew just cover TJ Hawkinson. But man, like, he had games where he got 0 catches. Like, that just can't happen if you're supposedly an elite tight end.
Right.
Like, it just doesn't happen. And so I would like to see Hawkinson bounce back. And I think when I talk about the Lions' upcoming draft this year, I think they're going to. I think he has a chance to actually be very good next year. And I'll explain why. Because I do think he's a weapon. He can block fairly well. And we've seen the flashes of him being a great receiver. He can do it. It just, we haven't seen the production in the last 2 years. And, Matt Patricia was the Antichrist, so I'm not going to hold that against him. And this year, again, there wasn't really any other receivers defenses had to worry about. He was the number one threat. He was wide receiver 1. And, Travis Kelce is wide receiver 1 on, like, the Chiefs. Like, when I say that, I just mean, like, he's getting wide receiver 1 targets, right, as a tight end. But the Chiefs also have Tyreek Hill. So, like, defenses kind of can't just worry only about Travis Kelce, right? Like, that's, like, the big thing. So, I think between the Hawk and Amon-Ra St. Brown, who has, again, been very good this year, he's had a really great emergence towards the end here. We've seen him start to develop, which has been great. I think he's a starting slot corner on a lot of NFL teams. Like, that's the way I always view it, is like, would he be a starter on another, like, on a, we'll say, like, even a fringe playoff caliber team? You're telling me the Saints wouldn't love having Amon-Ra St. Brown? You're telling me, like, the Bills wouldn't take Amon-Ra St. Brown over, like, a Cole Beasley if he was producing as much as he does? Like, he's very good. And granted, he's gotten the volume, which is why his numbers are so crazy, but he's shown that he can be a very good receiver. So having him is going to be great. I think he can be a great, wide receiver 3 / slot receiver kind of guy. On the defense, not as much to look forward to. Romeo Okwara coming back will be nice. See if he can, justify the contract he was given. I think he can. Tracy Walker has had a very quietly good year as a safety. Will Harris is really bad, who's the other safety on our team, the free safety. He's been awful. So I'd like to see what happens if Walker can get paired up with another solid safety. Hey, remember when we had Quandre Diggs and things were good in our secondary? Remember we had Quandre Diggs and Darius Slay, and they're both Pro Bowlers?
Remember when?
And we gave them away for a bag of peanuts? That's how that works. Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Matt. Oh, I'll never forgive them. Anyway, and we have some prospects on defense. Derek Barnes is definitely a developmental player who needs work, but he's got, like, the raw attributes, so it's just a matter of, can we coach him into being something better as a linebacker? You have Aleem McNeil and Levi Orunzurike. Orunzurike has been hurt, so can he develop and be something? We'll see. McNeil has had a solid year. Nose tackles don't exactly get a lot of hype because they block up the running holes and get tackles on that. They don't really get a lot of sacks unless you're Aaron Donald. So, from those, those are continue to wait and see. But the first draft went well. They were smart in free agency. Didn't try to sign anyone. The cap shrunk this year, so they were already in a cap squeeze, especially because of Matt Stafford's contract still being on the books. But now if we look forward into the future, what do we have to look forward to? Well, they're going to have $37 million in cap space in 2022. And they'll have even more in 2023 when Stafford's contract is fully off the books. Maybe you get rid of Trey Flowers, who also has an abysmal contract. The cap, like their cap space and their ability to play with some free agency money is going to be very nice. They're going to be able to bring some guys in. As a matter of fact, one of the things I'd like to see them do this year is sign Michael Gallup. Now, I know he just tore his ACL, but I think that's all the more reason to sign him. If he shows he can recover, you see how his rehab goes. You try to sign him. He would instantly, obviously instantly helps this team's receiver room, but he wouldn't be here as our wide receiver 1. He'd be wide receiver 2/3. And again, this is more so of volume, right? But a lot of people seem to think, when they think of wide receivers, they think wide receiver 1 is my best one. Wide receiver 2 is the second best. No, you got to think of wide receivers as, with your scheme. You have the slot guy. The guy who lines up in the slot, run the shallow crosser, a ton of yak yards. That's your slot guy. That's Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's going to be able to do that for you. You have TJ Hawkinson, possession tight end. He can go up and make the big-bodied catches over the middle when you need it. Guy who can pick up the shallow first downs, can occasionally run off a big play, run some people over. Great. You have DeAndre Swift. Catch the ball out of the backfield, make some people miss, have some nice screen concepts. That's great to have. Swift would be like a wide receiver 5, because that's kind of how it would be receiving backs. TJ Hawkinson would be your wide receiver 3, with in terms of volume. Amon-Ra St. Brown would be 4, but again, it's all just based on that scheme. So what Michael Gallup brings is being the deep threat, the dude that can just take the lid off the defense and run right past the secondary. Can you do that every time? God, no. But if you scheme it well enough, there's going to be a play where he eventually, a safety comes down because he's coming to cover Amon-Ra on the shallow, or he's coming to cover TJ Hawkinson on a hook route. And you bring him down, and then all of a sudden he's got a one-on-one with a corner, and he dusts him. And boom, deep bomb touchdown to the deep threat. Okay, so you've got your deep threat. You've got a slot. You've got your possession catch. You got your possession type, your vertical threat tight end. And you got your pass catching running back. Then, well, let's look at the draft. And this is where the Lions are really going to shine if they can make the right picks. They obviously have two first round picks this year, one from the Rams and our own. The first one is going to be a defensive player. With all of the top prospects, they're all defensive players. We're either going to get, depending on who the Jags take, I don't think they go O-line. They could, protect Trevor Lawrence, protect that investment. But I think they probably go, Thibodeau. There's a chance they go Hutchinson, but I think they go Thibodeau. And I think if that's the case, we either take Hutchinson or we take Kyle Hamilton, safety. We'll see. I'm going to trust Brad Holmes. His first draft has done very well. We've gotten some good players out of it. I have every reason right now to assume he can do it again, and he'll make the right pick, and his scouting team is gonna do well. He did well in LA, and he's done well here so far. It's that second first round pick that I'm very interested in, and I want them to take a receiver. Normally, I don't like taking skill positions, but I think this is a year where there's so many good receivers in the draft that they could absolutely do it, and it'd be worth it. I want them to take Drake London out of USC based on, looking at mock drafts where the Rams pick is looking like it'll end up and who should be there for us. Obviously, there's some better receivers earlier. I just don't think they're going to be available for us. And again, I'm going off of a guy who fits the scheme well. Drake London is I think he's 6'4", 6'5". He's 240 pounds. He's a freak. He's a big dude. He is your jump ball physical receiver. That guy who you can just say, fuck it, he's down there somewhere. Throw it, He is the
Jaden Reed, baby.
The guy to go. Fuck it, Jamar down there somewhere. That was Joe Burrow last week. But no, if you can get a guy that you can throw a 50-50 ball to when you need him to make a jump ball play, a guy in the red zone threat. So when he's in the end zone, if he's got a fade, Jared Goff can throw a little, nice little flutter ball, throw it up there, and just say, he's so big. And if he's as good as I hope he is, You can throw a ball into 50-50 coverage and feel confident that he's going to come down with it because he's just that powerful. So now look at that offense, right? You have slot receiver Amon St. Brown, big-bodied, deep, jump ball, physical receiver in Drake London. You have speedster, deep threat Michael Gallup as a wide receiver too. You have Hawkinson, Swift, and you have an elite O-line to let you run the ball and also protect your quarterback. Now the biggest question mark on now you have gone from your receivers being depleted to now your offense is elite. Your worst position on the field is your quarterback in Jared Goff. But hey, guess what? When Jared Goff was insulated in LA, he did pretty good. He's a system quarterback. You put him behind elite protection on an offensive line and give him 5 valid, good options of throwing the ball to. Literally, all 5 of the guys I just listed would be great targets to throw to. One of those 5 is going to find separation. Now, obviously, not all 5 will be running routes every play, but all 5 of those guys are going to be able to find space in the field. And Jared Goff just needs to hit him. And again, he's an NFL caliber quarterback, right? He is a starter, even if I don't think he's great. But I think he could thrive in that system. So I think the offense is immediately improved. And then again, you have that first round pick with a defensive player, whether it's Hutchinson or Kyle Hamilton or even Thibodeau, if he falls to you. You have that early second round pick, which again, I think they'll go defense there, probably take a safety or edge, whatever they didn't take in the first round. And your defense is now instantly better because it's been so depleted. Now, so that's all the ways that the team is better. Now, the other thing you have to look at is the division we play in. The NFC North could be the worst division in football next year, depending on one massive factor. There's a big if. First, let me do the things that aren't ifs. The Vikings and the Bears. Vikings are probably going to fire their head coach. So I don't have a lot of faith in them being very good next year. Even with all the talent on that team, Kirk Cousins could be gone. I honestly think he could end up in Pittsburgh because they're going to need a quarterback. And I think he could do well in that system with Mike Tomlin and all those receivers. But that's just me. So Minnesota could be hot ass next year. The Bears, yeah, they got, Justin Fields, but they're going to fire Matt Nagy. And the Bears, that could make them better, honestly. But there's also a chance they keep Matt Nagy and the team's just dog shit for another year. So, again, terrible. And then the Green Bay Packers, and this is the big if. If Aaron Rodgers plays somewhere else, which I think he's either retiring or he's going somewhere else. Personally, I feel like the Broncos would be the place for him to go. I feel like Denver is pull the Peyton Manning, retire in Denver, win a Super Bowl kind of deal. If Aaron Rodgers leaves, the Packers have instantly, because the other thing is if Aaron Rodgers leaves, Devontae Adams is gone. See ya. He's not. If he's going to go wherever either Rodgers goes or if Rodgers retires, he's going somewhere with a quarterback. Detroit? No, I'm just kidding. We can't afford him. But the Packers, with those are your 2 best players, instantly are a less good team. Now, they're still probably somewhat competitive, but we kind of saw what Jordan Love can do when he played earlier this season against the Chiefs, who don't have a world-beating defense. He scored 6 points or 7 points. So the division's wide open. So when you think of all of these things, there's no reason if the Detroit Lions, if they have a good offseason and Aaron Rodgers is not in Green Bay, they should be playing meaningful games in December. They should be in the hunt. They should be on that graphic. They should be, sitting around 8-7, 9-6. Be in the conversation next year. If they're in the conversation next year, Dan Campbell is going to have my full trust and support going forward. To be in the playoff hunt 2 years into a rebuild, and it can be done in the NFL. Rebuilds are quicker in the NFL. But it would be impressive. Him and Brad Holmes would instantly have gained, I think, the love and admiration of most of the Detroit fan base if they can do that next year. And I think, again, I've laid it out as to why I think it can happen. It's just a matter of, can they execute, and will Dan Campbell's decision making be better? And I think we'll have that answer in September. After the first 3 or 4 games, if Dan Campbell has cost the team 1 or 2 wins because of his decision making, everything I've said is moot. But I'm going to be hopeful and not assume, but I'm going to be hopeful and, have confidence in the team to make the right decisions and do what needs to be done to win these football games and, be a decent football team next year.
Yeah, Griff. Sorry, I was playing around with our thing. Hang on, I messed it up. There we go. Perfect. Sorry.
There we go.
Anyway, we're back. There we go. Perfect. Griff. Lions chat over. Great. Do you want to get into who you got?
I do, because this is a very interesting week. Obviously, we got college football national title game, and a lot of interesting playoff implications this week. And that's kind of what my basis was for the NFL games we are picking. So, want to get into that after this break? Or no,
Sure.
we're doing that now.
Well, let's get into it right now, Griff. Let's do it.
All right.
All right. Yes.
Let's start off, Brad. First, let's talk about the who you got standings. You are still in the lead, 52 out of 96 picks. You have a 54% correct pick rate. I, however, have caught up. Even after the Alabama or the Texas Tech money line bet against Alabama, I am at 51 out of 96 for a 53% success rate. Woo! It is getting crispy here, my friend. All right, let's start off. National title game, Monday night, my birthday. It's going to be a great... I'm going to have fun. I love watching the national title game. Alabama versus Georgia, SEC title game rematch. Who you got?
So I hate that this one's on here. All right, because this one could be the one that gives you the lead, right? But because I hate it because my brain says Alabama, my gut says Georgia, so I don't know which one to listen to. And it's so hard to pick against Nick Saban, but I will, and I'll take Georgia.
Wow. Oh, my God, he did it. Oh, my God, he did it. So,
yeah.
I
picked against Alabama once before.
And it worked out very well.
And it worked out great, and it was the Texas A&M upset. I don't know that it works out
I always say Texas
well.
Tech.
That's fine.
Not the Red Raiders,
same thing, right?
Aggies.
I'm just kidding.
So, my thought process for this game was simple. Never bet against Nick Saban. It's the same. Never bet against Tom Brady. Never bet against Bill Belichick. You just don't do it.
No.
Because it doesn't work out well.
Mm-mm.
But... Oh, and the other thing is with Georgia, it just feels like what they did to Michigan. I think people kind of it's a quick reaction. It's kind of what happened to me last week when I picked Michigan to beat Georgia, because I only looked at the microcosm of the SEC title game and thought, yep, they don't, they beat up on bad opponents, and look what happened when they went against a real opponent in Alabama. This is kind of a downish year for Alabama anyway, and they look that bad against them. Michigan can win this, and I let the recency bias bite me in the ass, and I don't want to do that here, where I let the recency bias of Alabama looking not as dominant as I expected them to be against Cincinnati, and Georgia just obliterating Michigan. I just feel the biggest thing that scares me about picking Bama is the SEC title game. Bama had to win it. Georgia wanted to win it because Georgia didn't need to. Georgia was in the CFP regardless. Although I'm sure Kirby Smart wants to finally, beat Nick Saban. But you don't bet against Nick Saban. I just think Bama is Bama. I think they have the better quarterback. I think they have some of the better defensive players, and Bama, I think, has the better receivers. Georgia has a great tight end and a really solid defensive and offensive line. I just think Bama finds a way, as they always do, and they win. But I do want it noted, I will be rooting for Georgia because I hate Alabama. Which is you think everyone. Georgia just pantsed my team on national TV.
Yeah.
But I hate Alabama, and go Dogs, baby. Plus,
right.
I mean, I know that Atlanta just won, the World Series. But that would be so
nice for Georgia.
I think people in Georgia and the Atlanta sports fans who probably are also Georgia fans, they need this.
Right.
Let's be real. They need this. They've Falcons 28-3. A lot of choking has happened for them. So when they won the World Series, very happy for people there because I get it. Cursed sports franchises, I get it. Championship droughts, I get it. So go Dogs. I hope they win, but I'm picking Bama as that's what my brain says. So I'm going with that. All right, Brad. Saturday Night Football. This game doesn't really have a lot of implications, but I wanted to pick a Saturday night game because there's two of them. This is probably the more interesting one. Cowboys at Eagles, and it's division rivalry week. Both teams have secured positions in the playoffs. Both have clinched a playoff berth. I don't know exactly what they can do with a win to help their seeding. I don't think Dallas can do much either way. And the Eagles, I think, are locked in for the 6th seed. Maybe they can move up. I'm not 100% sure. But I do think both teams are playing their starters for what that's worth. So who you got?
So this one's a hard one for me. It is a hard one, I mean, both teams, I don't want to say that the Eagles are, it's hard to say. I gotta take the Cowboys. They've been the better, team all season. But, again, the Cowboys have 11 wins. Not something I thought they would do. And again, like you mentioned, the playoffs are kind of already set. And the Cowboys they've clinched their division, so they can't really do much more, and they won't get a number 1 seed, so it doesn't really matter. The Cowboys don't have to play Dak Prescott. That does not matter, right? They obviously will, but so it's hard to say, right? But I gotta take Dallas. I just gotta take Dallas. They're the better team. They are 5-0 against teams in their division. Pretty hard to ask them to lose one.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking the Cowboys here too. I think they're just a better team. The Eagles are. I have been doubting the Eagles all year, and I was wrong to do it. So first of all, apologies, Eagles fans. Your team is much better than I thought, and I actually think their future is very bright. I do still think they need another year to get some more. They have some good draft picks coming up because they own another pick that's in the top 10, I think. So they're gonna be a playoff team with a top 10 pick. That's a great spot to be. So I think I think their future is looking up, but it's not this year, and I think the Cowboys still win this game. So that's who I got. All right, AFC wildcard battle now. Steelers at Ravens.
Right.
This game has some wildcard implications. Basically, whoever wins this game is still in playoff contention. Whoever loses is out. However, both teams kind of need a lot of things to happen. Specifically, both teams need Indy to lose to the Jaguars. It's a slim shot, but winning this game at least keeps your playoff hopes alive for at least a couple hours. Or I think they play during the same time as Indy and the Jaguars. But you got to win this game to at least give yourself a chance if the Jags do somehow pull off the upset. So, Brad, Steelers-Ravens, heated AFC North rivalry. Who you got?
So I'm really hoping that Lamar Jackson is in this game. I think that if Lamar Jackson wins, if Lamar Jackson is in this game, then it's an easy win for the Ravens. I think that because obviously, he's been out, so that's been an issue. They've had a couple other injury problems. You say the same thing about the Steelers. Kind of. Ben Roethlisberger is also questionable for this game. But I don't know. I got to take the Ravens because Roethlisberger, even if he plays, is awful. So I don't know. Watching him play the Browns, I was like, come on, Browns. What are you doing? Baker Mayfield, but again, I got to take the Ravens. I don't know. I hate rooting for the Steelers. I hate asking them to do anything because usually, Ben is Ben. So, whatever.
So you taking the Steelers?
I'm taking the Ravens, Griff. I am taking the Ravens.
This could be Ben Roethlisberger's last game.
Right.
Don't know if Lamar Jackson is playing. The Ravens just find ways to collapse every week. I'm doing it. I'm taking the Steelers. Old man Ben's going to ride off into the sunset, into old glory, and have his way. Oh, God. Not again. Anyway, yeah, so I'm going to take the Steelers. Yeah, I think just Ben tries to win his last game, and I just don't trust the Ravens for shit, especially if Lamar isn't playing. So, all right, we got the homer pick of the week. Packers at Lions. There is no implications in this game. Packers have the number 1 seed in the NFC. Lions are dead people. The only thing they can really do is if they lose, they give themselves a chance at the number 1 pick. It has been reported that the Packers are going to play some starters, but I would imagine that's only going to be for a quarter. This is going to be a preseason game for them. However, that still might be enough to beat these Lions with how bad they are. So, Brad, who you got?
So, this is easy. I got to take Green Bay, okay? With or without Aaron Rodgers. The spread is 2.5, all right? I can't imagine that the Green Bay, even without Aaron Rodgers, they lose by less than 3. There's no chance. Not a chance. I can't imagine them losing this game. I actually have this game in our upcoming betting segment, but God, I can't not take the Packers here. Packers it is.
Yep, I'm taking the Packers. I just can't trust the Lions. I get that they're playing backups and that we are also basically playing backups. The Lions might not even have Jared Goff back this week. So
yeah, well,
which Tim Boyle versus Jordan Love. Yeah, I'll take Jordan Love even if he's bad. And plus the Lions love giving rookie quarterbacks or backup quarterbacks confidence boosts. So, yeah, I'm going to go with that and just close my eyes and take the Packers. Plus, I'm still hoping we get the miracle and the Lions can somehow get the number 1 pick, even if it is improbable. Okay, so we have 2 sets of games here. We have NFC Wildcard Implications 1, Saints at Falcons, and we have NFC Wildcard Implications 2, Electric Boogaloo, 49ers at Rams. So I'm going to read the scenario off before we make these picks. If the Saints win and the Rams win the NFC West, and they are the 2 seed. The Saints would take the 49ers spot in the playoff, and the Saints would be in, the 49ers would be out. If the Rams lose, and the 49ers win, because that's the matchup, the Cardinals can win the division if they beat Seattle. And they would become the 3 seed, and then the Rams would be bounced out. Also, the 49ers would be in, and the Saints would not make it. So we could potentially have 3 teams from the NFC West in the playoff this year. So, with all that being said, first game, Brad, Saints at Falcons. Who you got?
Saints, without a doubt.
Yeah. Easy, 100%. Have something to play for. Falcons don't.
Like I wrote a sentence for every single one to come up with like some sort of something for the Saints Falcons. I just have Saints. Like not hard. Not hard to do.
They're a better team. Like the biggest issue with the Saints, they don't have a quarterback. I do wonder how good this Saints team could have been if they actually had Jameis Winston all year. I know Jameis Winston isn't like crazy good, but he's shown he can be a decent quarterback. And I really thought him being in New Orleans and being under Sean Payton, he looked like he took steps forward in his development. I really thought that, it kind of was like what could have been like if Jameis never got hurt. How much I think the Saints would become more of a lock for a wild card slot. But, we'll never know. All right. Game 2 for these implications. 49ers at Rams. Also probably one of the better games this week because both teams have stuff to play for still. And these are both two pretty good teams. Who you got, Brad?
So I don't know if I believe in Matthew Stafford yet. I can't say.
Come on. He only threw 4 pick sixes this season.
So, yeah. Not looking great. But that's playoff Stafford, so we're not there yet, all right? But I also don't know. Here's the thing. I don't know if I believe in San Francisco either.
Jimmy Jesus? Come on.
I don't know. So I don't know how to feel about this game. I don't know that I wouldn't bet on it. I don't know that LA covers the 4.5 point spread, but they probably win the game. They probably win the game.
You would take Rams.
I would take the Rams.
Right.
I would take
a house on that.
If I had to pick on this game, I would take the money line. Obviously, we're just doing picks right now. But I would not. I would stay clear away from this spread if I were taking this game.
As well, wow, we only differentiated on 2 games so far. We suck. All right. No, that's fine.
Hey, the picks are only as good as the one who lays them out there. So.
I was working. Listen, dude, half the game starters aren't playing, so I just don't. I tried to pick the ones that actually mattered somewhat.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right,
fair.
Sunday Night Football. You want to hear something interesting about this game?
I would love to.
So I know, I told you that the Steelers and Ravens both needed Indy to lose for either one of them to have a chance at making the playoff. But if there is a scenario where if Indy loses, there is a scenario where neither the Ravens or Steelers get in. So if Indy loses and the Chargers lose, the Chargers get in. No, I had that backwards. I thought now I can't remember. There's another scenario, but the one that's more interesting is if Indy loses, the Chargers and Raiders can both make the playoffs if they tie. Now here's why that's interesting. Indy plays at 1:00 on Sunday. The Chargers and Raiders play at night, Sunday night. Could we see one of the craziest endings to a season where both teams mutually agree to a tie to get into the playoffs? Probably not. I think the biggest thing would be like, if the Raiders want to agree because they're in, the Chargers would want to win because then they could get a better seeding. But I think both could stay put. So could we just see 20 kneels and the game be over? Most likely not, but I do find that to be a hilarious scenario.
That's funny.
It would be even funnier if they tied naturally. And just imagine how pissed you'd be if you were like a Pittsburgh fan and that was what cost your team getting into the playoffs. But anyway, Chargers at Raiders, big playoff implications here. Both these teams are win to get into the wild card. Who you got?
So, hopefully, and I mean hopefully, and he's done great for me this season. And I know that you're wearing the jersey. Herbert, hopefully he shows up because I swear some games he's just not did not look great. But I gotta take LA. There's no hope for Las Vegas right now. No hope. So I gotta say Chargers. And I know that you'll pick the Chargers. Like, obviously, who else would you pick?
Chargers, 100% Chargers.
Right.
And I'm not
I can't.
just a fanboy. I genuinely think the Chargers are the better football team.
Oh, absolutely,
They
they
won
are.
the earlier contest. I think the. But here's the thing: the Raiders are so fucking weird and so inconsistent that they could pull a fucking rabbit out
They
of their
could.
ass
They
and somehow
they
just
totally
play
could.
really well this game. But I'm going to trust in the Chargers and their consistency. They have the offensive output and firepower, led by this guy. I'll trust the Chargers. Brad, that is who you got.
Isn't
All right.
that great? Don't you love that? We did a segment. We did a real radio segment. That's so much fun. I love that
We
for
were
us.
on a podcast, but no, you
Yeah.
gotta spice things up, keep it fun. All right, Brad, we have a new segment to
We do.
finish out the show today.
We
You
do.
want to tell the people about that?
I
The
would-
the currently unnamed segment.
So yeah, we don't have a name for this, but we felt that we needed a betting segment in the podcast. All right. So here's the deal. All right. We are not to give betting advice. Right. So whatever. All right. But it's fun to give betting advice. So that's what we're gonna do. And obviously, if you are betting, then don't be a dummy and go out and spend all your money, try to get
Only
rich
bet
quick
what you can
off
afford to lose.
Right, exactly. And, so it's just having fun, get invested in some of these games. I have some interesting ones, and I want to go. So Griff, we're gonna both come to the table with 3 picks. They can be anything, any sport, anything with a spread or an over/under or whatever you like.
It can be an over/under. It could be a prop bet, first to score a touchdown. It could be hockey over. It could be hockey over/unders.
And I will judge you on all of that. By the way,
you could. I would even accept a parlay to do a same game parlay. Because some of them are easy. Like if you think this person's going to get,
Right.
you could do Jonathan Taylor gets 27, gets over 50 point something rushing yards, and you also think Michael Pittman's going to get 15. He's going to get over 3.5 receptions. Stuff like that. Lots of fun stuff with betting. Like I said, just be careful with your money, people.
Right. So Griff, I want to know
but
I want you to come to the table with your 3. Let's go.
all right. Normally, I'm the king of the over. You always root for the over. I love points in football. Always root for the over. I root for it in hockey. I root for the over in football. More points, more goals is fun. I didn't do a hockey pick just because I wasn't feeling any this week. So I'm doing all football. First, normally I'm the king of the over, but my first pick's going to be an under. Chiefs Broncos 44.5 is the spread is the over under. I'm taking the under on that. Under 44. My reasoning, the Broncos can't produce offense if it fucking hit them in the face. This team is so offensively that they are offensive on the offense. It is so bad. And that's what happens when you give Pat Shurmur the reins on your offensive play calling. Former Giants head coach. He's awful. So, yeah, the Chiefs will probably score, the Chiefs could score 30, but I don't think the Broncos can score 14. So I'm going to take the under on Broncos Chiefs 44. Would you like me to do my other 2, or are we kind of?
I would. Actually, let's alternate. Let's try and see how we like that. All right. So my first one is a doozy. All right. We all know that I'm in love with it.
I just looked at the show sheet to see what it is.
So, oh my God. Please don't judge me for this. So, all right, we all love the FCS champion. I can't finish.
Get through the segment. Come on, move along.
All right, we got the FCS championship game. All right, Montana
Okay.
State and North Dakota State, all right? Montana State
I'll
and
say
North
this.
Dakota State.
North Dakota State, one of the best FCS schools out there. They love beating FBS schools. They should probably be in the FBS. They have beaten
really?
a lot of FBS schools in big upsets. Anyway,
Perfect. So I wanna put this down. All right. So here's 5 keys to the game. All right. So North Dakota State and Montana State both rank number 1 and 2 in the 128 member FCS in fewest points. All right, per game. So North Dakota State is allowing 11.2 points per game. Montana State 13.4. North Dakota State is insane against the run. All right, they allow 82.7 yards per game, which is number 3 in FCS. Montana State, they have a defensive base that's insane against the pass. They have 15 sacks and 7 interceptions in the last 4 games. So anyway, with that said, Montana State needs to stop the run. Obviously they're great against the pass. They need to stop the run. And North Dakota State ranks number 3 in the FCS in rushing yards per game. And then also they have an effective, they're getting players back. All that stuff said. Anyway, so I think the defense is going to be sort of the. If I had to take the under on a game, I would. And I think that the point differential is what stands out the most to me. In a close game, if the game is close, it'll come down to fourth quarter plays. And North Dakota State has the best point differential in the fourth quarter at plus 91 and allowed 2.1 points on average, which is number 1 in the FCS, giving up 0 in 3 playoff wins. Montana State has only allowed 7 fourth quarter points in 3 playoff wins and is plus 63 for the season. And so again, I think that this is going to come down to defense. I think that you could see this game be very low scoring, 21-14, whatever. The point spread, however, is what is it? Hold on, let me pull it up real quick.
7.5.
A 7.5 for North Dakota State. I got North Dakota State winning this game, obviously, again, by a touchdown, but very easily said with that point differential. 10-point game gets you gets you North Dakota State covering the spread. North Dakota State wins this game. Again, take the spread.
Oh God, I'm out of.
I know. I'm sorry for breaking down an FCS game, Griff.
I don't listen. I appreciate the level of research. I respect that. Honestly, I really do. I really, really do.
I bet.
No, I don't hate it. I honestly would probably also bet the same thing. I don't follow FCS a lot, but your reason, I would have leaned North Dakota State on that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
But your data actually would make me feel more confident in that. So,
Perfect.
No, genuinely,
love that.
Good job. All right, the king of the over is back. I know I'm a dirty, rotten bastard because I said I took the over. Or I took the under in Chiefs Broncos. But if you've seen the Broncos play offense, they're not good at it. I'm not trusting them to put up even 14 points. Okay. Chargers, Raiders, over 49.5. This is a game I could easily see being a 27-24 victory for the Chargers or the Raiders. It just feel like I'm gonna hold up. Let me pulling up the stat I had. So earlier in the year, 28-14 was the final. Let me pull up Pro Football Index. So here's the previous matchups in just the last 2 years. 30-27, 31-26, 24-17. That would be the under. 24-26, also the over. 30-10, 34-31. We're seeing 29-37. These teams score a lot of points when they're together, and the fact that both of these teams have big offensive weapons, with obviously Justin Herbert has Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, Mike Williams. And the Raiders, Derek Carr has shown he can score 4 touchdowns in the game. Josh Jacobs is a very good running back. Receiver wise, they have some big play guys. You have Darren Waller if he's healthy. So with all that combined, it gives me the hope that, especially with their recently how many points this rivalry has scored, I think that they can get to 50. I think we can see, like I said, a 31-26, a 27-24. I think we get there. So I'm going to go over 49.5 Chargers Raiders.
Wow. Love that for you. So
I
good.
root for points. Come on.
Yeah, root for points. I always do. I mean, points are always good. Griff, the second game
likes rooting for the under.
So here's my issue. All right, and I was hoping. Well, this isn't really your fault. Well, so I was hoping that we get to this pick before 9 p.m. So it really makes no sense now. But I have Texas Tech and Iowa State. Which is going on
right now.
Literally right now. Like the game is going on. I had the over 120. I think it's over under is 127, and that's what I had. But what's the score right now? It's Wednesday. It's 15-4, and Texas Tech is not looking great. So maybe the under might have been the play. I don't know, but you can't bet that anymore. So
127's not a lot.
No. Well, in college basketball, no. That's like 70 points per team, right? Or something like that, like ish, right? That's like 65 or so, right? Something like that. So it's not a lot. I think it's 63 points per team. And so like saying that'd be like if they win 70-60 or something. But that's the thing, right? Like the game is 11 versus 25. Like I'm not, you know what I mean? Like I would expect to see a lot of points out of that. It'd be like, 100-90 or something like that. You know what I mean? Like that. Those are the top scoring, like high scoring matchups that you expect from a ranked matchup. And that's kind of what I'm expecting. I mean, Michigan State and Nebraska. Michigan State played a homeless team today, and they hit 127. So, not a lot of points to expect out of that. And both teams only have 3 combined losses. Anyway, Griff, go on.
Fair enough. All right. Finally, we have the the CFP. Got my acronyms wrong. You got all that FCS shit in my brain with the FCS championship.
Yeah,
but
sure.
We have the college football playoff national title game, Georgia-Bama, over 52 points. Now, 52, that's a lot of points, Griff. That's a lot of points to try and get over on. Yeah, maybe for you. But here's why I'm taking the over, Brad. Do you know what some of the final scores have been in? You want to know what the final scores have been in just the college football playoff era?
Yeah, I would love to know.
By the way, this website's kind of funny. It has the championship MVP listed as Ezekiel Elliott, quarterback. Not great. But anyway, we have last year 52-24, 2019 42-25, 2018 44-16 when Clemson just whooped Alabama, 2017 26-23, 2016 35-31, 2015 45-40, and 2014 42-20. Every single year except one, they didn't get to 50. And even the year that they didn't get to 50, they got to 49. It was 3 points short of the over. Give me the over. I know the defenses are good. I know Georgia's defense is very good, But man, we already saw in the SEC title game, we saw a preview. When I saw 52, I thought, hammer. This is an absolute lock. This would be my lock of the week if we did that. 100% over on this. And those are my bets for the week, Bradford. That's who I got.
Do you know who I have?
Who is that?
My last pick. You know who I got? I got the Packers and the Lions. Do you remember when I said that the Packers, like, this is a no-brainer for me? And I don't know if, like, Aaron Rodgers not being questionable or playing will increase that spread at all. I would pick the game if it was a 7-point spread. I mean, if at that point, I just take the money line. I mean, at that point, because I don't know if the spread would be, but, like, again. Right. Because I guess at that point you might want to pick the Lions, but at 2.5, like, that's nothing, like I don't know. Like I might even, if I felt frisky, I might take in a 10-point spread or whatever, but like, I can't see the Lions walking out of this game with a W. No way. So Packers 2.5, easy money.
Either.
Easy money.
My big thing is just like, it's just doubting it's an unproven thing with the backups, but
right.
I agree with you. It's just too much. I would probably lean that way as well.
So Griff, exciting news, real quick. Exciting news. Yeah. Insane news. Michigan State won. Despite the turnovers, despite everything, they won their basketball games 27 minutes ago. It ended because it's 9:27 p.m. We did a 2-hour show today. So here's my thing, though. Like, so here's how he opened his press game. And I love Tom Izzo for this, okay? But Tom Izzo opens his press game by asking the media who is available to play against Michigan on Saturday and who will not turn the ball over. See, this is what I just love about Tom Izzo, is he just doesn't give a shit. He is like uncanny charisma. I just love him. Like just asking media personnel to just, who wants to play? I'll dress you. No big deal. Like, no problem. Not an issue. Non-issue for that. He is the best when it comes to that. But so yeah, Michigan State.
Your love for Sparty.
Michigan State plays Michigan on Saturday. That will be exciting. So,
no, not for me. Not for me.
Yeah, well, and is it like a loss of players for them? I don't want to get into a deep dive. We're not going to do that. But like, is it a loss for players?
It's.
You gotta think it's gotta
be. Maybe I just don't pay much attention to basketball. And that's not to be like it doesn't matter. I just I watched the Final Four last year, and I just kind of go off other people say because I don't follow it. Like most of the time, like football, you can tell I do a lot more of my own looking into things and like watching players analysis thing. I just don't do that with basketball. So
and like you got to think, like, look at this matchup. So Michigan State has won their last 5. They only lost their last game was against Baylor. The only 2 games they've lost has been to top 5 opponents. But you look at the last 5, right. Michigan and Michigan State kind of have identical schedules. Like they got 3 Big Ten teams, 1 non-Power 5 team. Well, I guess it's technically not really. You can't really measure the same way in college basketball. But they're identical. And Michigan put up 100 points against Nebraska. So I don't know what you would expect from,
I don't know.
Michigan will go. Michigan's will be 7-7 if they lose to Michigan State, which will be insane.
We'll see what happens when we get closer to March and with all that. But until then, I don't know. I guess we'll just keep an eye on it. So anyway, that has been Take This. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We appreciate all of you. Hopefully your bets hit. Hopefully your teams make the playoffs. If you're, unlike me and Brad and actually have a competent organization to root for, go Dogs on Monday. A lot of exciting football this weekend, and I'm very much looking forward to it. So, Brad, it's been great talking with you as always. People, thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next week, and don't forget, make your free throws.